Morning, everyone, or good afternoon. I am just going to wait um, for you guys to trickle in. How's everyone doing? I hope you had a great week. Hello, Instagram. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Good morning, Earl. Thank you for tuning in. Um, If this is your first time, definitely comment and say hi. Let us know it's your first time so we can shout you out. If it's not your first time, still comment and say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm a bit late today. I usually come on between 9 and 10, but it's really been a busy morning. Um, but I'm here. Earl says he always gets a notification when I'm on. Good. So that means you're using your notification button. So you should be subscribed to my channel. And if you select to be notified, you'll be notified on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube when I come on live. So make sure you hit that. Pike says, this is my first time from Ghana. Thank you for tuning in. Hi, Chooks from Austin, Texas. Um, okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration attorney. I represent clients in all 50 states in the United States with the immigration matter. So your location is not a problem. Our physical offices are in Florida and in Atlanta. We're in Florida most of the time, but we have physical offices in Atlanta as well. You can always call us 407-995-6567, or you can send us a message on WhatsApp 404-333-8751. Okay. So this person says, Oge says, hi Aisha, been a while. How are you? I'm great, thank you. Slew there, thank you for tuning in from New York on Instagram. So today I want to talk about those of you who have filed a I-751 petition and now with your spouse, and now you're having issues or you're having marital problems. So first and foremost, what is an I-751 for those who don't know? So typically, when you file for a marriage-based green card, at the time of your approval, if you've been married for under 2 years, you will be given a conditional green card. So while you have the same benefits as somebody who has a 10-year permanent green card, yours is on the condition that in 2 years' time, you have to apply with your spouse to remove the condition and to show that you have a continued bona fide marriage. The reason why they do this is because sometimes, when you've been married for under 2 years, you're not going to have a lot of stuff, to show that your marriage is legitimate, right? But they expect that by the time you come back, that you should have more stuff to show that, your marriage is legitimate. So that usually will require both you and your spouse to file a joint form, which is called the I-751, to show our marriage is legitimate. Now, can you remove the conditions? Can we have a permanent green card? Now, having said that, life happens. So sometimes you do that and then something happens, with either you and your spouse, or maybe the stuff was already happening or you were enduring it, or you believe that, everything will be okay. At that time, if there are two options that you potentially have. So let's start with, since we're focused on marital problems, I'm going to talk about divorce and I'm going to talk about extreme cruelty. So if you already have an I-751 filed and your spouse is like, you know what, I'm done, this marriage is not going to work, let's get a divorce, blah, 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 blah. If that is the case, you can amend your application. You can amend your application and basically ask USCIS to grant you a waiver of exemption. Essentially, you're exempt from having your spouse do it jointly with you because now you've been divorced. But you don't want to request that waiver until you've actually divorced and finalized the divorce, because they're not going to make a decision if there's no divorce. They will deny you if there's no divorce. So you can't ask for divorce if the divorce has not been finalized. Okay. Once the divorce is finalized, you have to provide, of course, a divorce decree showing that it's been finalized. Keep in mind, though, that even though you get divorced, because you guys are having issues, you still have to show that you have a bona fide marriage. You still have to show that your marriage is legitimate. Okay. And I've told you guys this several times. When you're doing conditional green cards, you need to have more evidence than say even just your marriage-based case, because at that time you really don't have any excuse. You can't say, oh, I don't have a I don't have a green card, I don't have a social security, I don't have a work permit, because at this point you have all those things to show things together, to show financial entanglement together, to show you're doing life together. The second option is being evaluated to see if you qualify for an exemption based on extreme cruelty. Now, how does that work? It works similar to Vala, but it's different. So, a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm found that I have a conditional green card. It's actually very different. There are similarities, but it's actually very different. Now, if you're in a marriage, and I know a lot of immigrants, they stay in this awful relationships where their partners are really, really abusive, and they're like, you know what, I've dealt with this, I'm doing my conditional green card, I'm just going to suffer, I'm going to just, deal with it. And then every day you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know if on the day of your interview that person is going to show up, or they're going to, do whatever. Hey, Takoa, thank you for tuning in. What's up? Yeah. So, but, if your spouse is being extremely cruel to you and is abusive towards you, you can file for an exemption. You can file for an exemption. And as a matter of fact, if you do get approved based on an exemption based on extreme cruelty, even though your spouse divorces you, you will still be eligible to file for citizenship within 3 years from the date when you first got your conditional green card, as opposed to divorce where you have to wait 5 years. If you get approved based on abuse, you will be able to file for an exemption for your naturalization 3 years later. So, you still have to show you have a bona fide marriage, you still have to show that your spouse was extremely cruel. One of the critical differences when you're filing for abuse based on VAWA versus abuse based on, we have a conditional green card, is that when you're doing a true VAWA case, meaning you don't have any green card, you're submitting a VAWA case, you cannot remarry somebody else while your case is pending. If you remarry somebody else, then you're going to essentially say that your case has basically you've abandoned your case. It's almost like if you try to travel outside the country without having advanced parole, they'll say you've basically abandoned that. With conditional green cards, whether you get divorced and remarry somebody else, it doesn't disqualify you from still removing the conditions based on the marriage that was abusive and then you got a divorce in. So that's the critical difference. So those are two key ways in which, if you're in a marriage and your spouse and you're having problems, your spouse is like, I'm done with this relationship, I am not going to do this with you jointly, or I'm withdrawing my joint support of this. These are the two options that you need to evaluate, whether you qualify based on you guys either getting a divorce, or whether you qualify based on you guys based on you having an abusive marriage. Okay, I see all your questions. Let me answer some of your questions. Alicia says, hi, I must say you're doing a good job. Thank you so much. My fiance will be calling you soon to book an appointment. We're trying to file for a fiance visa because I'm in Ghana. Awesome, Pike. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me go to Instagram and see what options does someone who's been on a student visa for over 17 years have to change in the U.S. And this is Anuluwapo on Instagram. Well, the option that you have, if you're a student and you're still a student, is, well, first of all, if you're a student, you've been a student for 17 years, are you in the medical field? What is your field of, what is your profession? What are you studying? If you are in a STEM related field, and you are on a student visa, meaning you're currently in a student visa and you've not overstayed your student visa, or your student visa has not expired, you do qualify for OPT, which is occupational training. And the thing about occupational training, when you're in a STEM program, STEM is science, technology, engineering, math. If you're in any program that's related to that, you have 3 opportunities for OPT. So that gives you 3 opportunities to match or to qualify for an H-1B visa, which ultimately could lead to a green card. So that would be your path based on you being in academia or being a student. Now, aside from that, obviously, if you meet somebody that's a U.S. citizen, or you meet somebody that's a green card holder and you're still in active legal status as F1 student, then you can apply for adjustment of status. So the difference is that, because if the person's a US citizen, you have visas immediately available to you. They're not a US citizen, you don't have visas immediately available to you. So you must be in an active status for that person to file for you. Okay. Somebody says, Carol says, is it true that people who apply for Vala get a 2-year work permit? Absolutely. It's not only people who apply for Vala who get a 2-year work permit. If you're applying for a marriage-based case right now, you'll also get a 2-year work permit. The reason why people are getting 2-year work permits right now, and also if you apply for a travel permit, you'll get a 2-year work travel permit. You'll just get it in a combo card, like a work permit, travel permit combo card. The reason why people who are applying for adjustment of status based on family bases are getting this 2-year work permit is because there is an unprecedented delay of work permits and travel permits being issued and cases being processed. You guys have to remember, we're just slowly coming out of a pandemic. So last year, first of all, immigration was not seeing people for several months. Like, they were not doing any interviews for several months. Biometrics was closed. They were doing bypasses, even though some of them now they're redoing those biometrics that they bypass. And so because of that, there is a major backlog. And that backlog means that a case that would normally take, 8 to 10 months is now taking 12 to 15 months. And a case that takes 18 to 24 months is now taking 24 months to 2.5 years. So because of that, it's, having people apply every 6 months for, I'm on a live right now. Somebody's knocking on my office door. Instead of, and that made me lose my train of thoughts. But yeah, so instead of applying every 6 months for a renewal of your work permit and further like clogging the immigration system when they're trying to get out of the backlog, they decided we're going to give people 2-year work permits, 2-year travel permits, so that it can reduce the amount of applications we're getting so that we can see if we can clear up the backlog. Now, if you ask me, do I think that is working right now? No, I don't think it's working. I mean, I think it's great that they're giving people 2-year work permits, because then they don't have to worry about renewals. And for some people, they will not need to renew at all during the entire duration of their case, because they will make decisions before it expires. But for whatever reason, the backlog, like, I even feel like in the last 5 months, maybe since August or July, July is when they started doing the 2-year work permits, that the work permits are now even taking longer, especially if you're a renewal client. So if you're a renewal client, I would suggest that if your work permit is expiring within 6 months, this is the time to do the renewal. If you're my client, call us, let us do it for you now. If it's expiring within 6 months, just because there's a backlog. So you want to just get it in there, and so that, you can get your stuff sooner rather than later. Okay. Okay. Someone says, Ms. Chitterley, when the person is married to an LPR is a legal permanent resident, same as green card holder, they filed an I-130, and in the visa bulletin, it's current. Is it possible to apply for a green card till the I-130 is approved? So I feel like I don't understand your question. The visa is current, but is the person in status? The non LPR, if they're not in status, even though the visa bulletin is current, they cannot apply for adjustment of status. They are going to need a 601A waiver for hardship to the LPR, and if that is approved, they will have to go to consular process to finish the process. And your question is not very clear, but I'm just saying this based on my assumption of what it is you're saying. Oluwashola says, so you don't need to renew your work permit. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, if you have a 2-year work permit, you have a longer time with your work permit before you have to file for a renewal, which is 1 year and 6 months, which is essentially 18 months. So the idea behind that is that, you know, people tend to have, like, if you had a 1 year work permit, you know, in 6 months time, you really need to be renewing it. You really don't want to wait till like month 11 because, you know, there's going to be a delay. So the idea behind the 2 years, as I said, is not that you don't have to renew it, but that the goal is that they will make a decision on your case before you have to renew it. There will be people that will have to renew it depending on their case type. But the goal is that for a lot of these cases, they will make a decision before you have to renew it. Give or take. Let's use Vala as an example, since that's the question that somebody asked. So most Vala cases take about 24 months, which is 2 years to 2.5 years. Okay. Most work permits take anywhere from, you know, 6 to 8 months, 6 to 10 months. Let's say you get your work permit at month 7, right? And then you get a 2 year work permit, right? So that's already 2 years and an additional 7 months, right? So that buys you time so that there's a possibility that they will make a decision on your case where you don't have to renew at that time. However, that is very different from what you're asking. When your work permit is about to expire, preferably 6 months before it's about to expire, you should be renewing your work permit. They've now made a decision on your case. Okay. Dake Koku says, how long does it take to get a work permit after you do your biometrics? Honestly, I don't know the method, the rhyme or the reason to USCIS and why or how they decide. But generally, we usually might see, and do not quote me on this just because I'm just giving you estimates from what I see in my own practice. Everybody else is different. After biometrics, it could be, well, it depends on what, make sure the biometrics we're talking about covers your 765 biometrics. If it's that, it could be anywhere from 8 weeks to 12 weeks from there, is what we generally see. But again, it could be different for you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so you have a PhD currently about to end. Well, you should definitely be speaking to your school about that because your international division in your school should be telling you about OPT. I don't handle OPT or student immigration, but your school should be able to tell you about OPT and trying to get a job. And PhD is varied. You know, is your PhD in a STEM background, you know, whatever it is. If it's not in a STEM background, you only have one opportunity to do OPT, so 1 year, and to try to, you know, get picked in a H-1B lottery. Okay, let's see. This is actually a good question because a lot of people have actually asked me this, which is, can I file for Vala and still make up with my abuser? Thank you. So the answer is that is up to you. You know, I mean, I certainly believe in redemption. People able to change? Yeah, people are able to change. Is it a personal decision? Yes, it's a personal decision. You know, it's up to you, you know, to decide, you know, this person has done this horrible things to me. Do I want to make up with the person? If you see the person has changed and you want to make up with them, you can do that. If your question is whether or not it will affect your valid case, the answer is no. There are many people that stay married to the person and have their green cards that they got themselves based on what their spouse did to them, and maybe their spouse has changed. Or some people, they stay with them, and then, you know, when they get their green card, you know, and they're just, you know, they stay and decide, you know what, now I can get a job. I don't have to stay in this because, you know, for a lot of people who are abused, you know, as immigrants, a lot of times there's a financial chokehold where when you don't have status here, you can't get a legitimate job. You don't have a place to live. You know, you don't have anybody to call on. So you rely so much on your spouse. And this even happens to people who are, you know, citizens of this country where one spouse relies on the other spouse for finances and they stay in these horrible marriages because they don't know what they're going to do, right? You know, in those instances, when they feel that they have the financial freedom, the financial liberty, then they might leave. So it's really up to you, but it doesn't affect your case one way or the other. Can a person that has a DUI first offense but is clear apply for VAWA? Well, when was a timeline? It's one of those things that I would prefer to have a consultation and to see your court disposition to tell you what you are. But if the question is, has that stopped people from getting an approval or absolutely a no. There are definitely ways around it and definitely ways to see what it is and whether it rises to the level of a crime of moral turpitude. Um, okay, so this person says, good day, Miss. My name is Maria. What if your case is scheduled for an interview and your spouse got a job in another state? What should you do? You should attend the interview with your spouse. Your spouse should be able to explain to their employer how important this interview is for his spouse to get her or his or her green card, or they will be deported if they're denied. Because you don't even want to work for an employer that will not allow you to do something as important as that. So your spouse should attend the interview. Gilbert says, what can I do to fast track the renewal of my work permit after the expiration of 6 months of successful application? Sent to me since July. If I had a crystal ball or like a jar with pennies in there, I would be so rich with everybody asking me how to do that. If I knew, I would do it for all my clients as well. I don't know of any way to fast track it. It's just what it is. Actually, there's actually a group, an organization, a legal organization right now suing USCIS due to the delays in renewal work permits. Like, we've not seen anything like this before. Like, it is ridiculous, it makes me very unhappy, and always having to explain that to clients. Believe it or not, like, for us, a lot of us lawyers, we want your cases to move quickly. We want your cases to be approved because it's helpful. And at the end of the day, why am I doing this if I can't get a result for my client? Like, it doesn't make me feel good. But we don't control that, and most no lawyer controls timeline, only USCIS. But right now there's just a delay all over the place. Someone said her Vala case was approved after 10 years. Please, what could be the reason? I have no idea. You're going to have to ask her why it took 10 years. Okay. Okay. So Shatale says, I will try to make my question clear. The person is married to a green card holder and he or she is in a legal status. During the time the I-130 is pending and the F2A in the visa bulletin is current, is that a possible to apply for an adjustment green card? Yes. As long as they're in legal status, they can apply for adjustment of status based on that and attach the pending I-130. Doing taxes separated from the husband, will that affect when applying for the Vala? Not necessarily. So it's not there are certain things. Ooh, my battery's about to die. Can you guys on Instagram hear me? My battery's about to die. All right, hold on, guys. Let me just plug in the charger. Okay, there we go. So doing taxes separately is not the end all be all. But what is the reason? A lot of times when you don't do things that USCIS traditionally wants you to do, you just have to have a logical reason or a logical explanation of why you're not doing that. So if you're filing taxes separately, for example, are you at least listing that you're married filing separately or your taxes? If you're listing head of household and both of you have social security numbers, that is a problem. Do not do that. You should be listing married filing separately. And are you filing filing separately because one person owes all this child support or all this back taxes or whatever it is, and it's going to affect the refund? So if those are reasons why, or the own or whatever reason why, you just want to make sure that one, you articulate that in your interview or in your documentation as to why you're filing separately. Okay. So Papa says, I just got my case reopened. Can I go get a driver's license renewal? I don't know what your case is. I don't know what you got reopened. So I don't know the answer to the question. So maybe you can be a little bit more detailed about what it is. Okay. Um, can someone who USCIS has decided on her case still file for VAWA? NK, do you mean if they've decided on a different case? Is that what you're asking? If that's what you're asking, yes, if you qualify for VAWA, you can still apply for VAWA. Teddy says, if your U.S. citizen spouse refuses to sign your joint filing of Form I-751 to remove conditions on the residence, are you still typing? Because this question doesn't sound complete. So I will just wait for you. What are types of additional evidence USCIS will ask for with an I-360? So that is a very broad question, and it's really hard to answer without knowing what you submitted. Most times, if you've submitted everything, you will not get a request for additional evidence. Now, if you didn't submit everything that is required by USCIS, then you will get a request for additional evidence. For example, and I'm just going to give you just simple examples, but again, there could be very many different things or various reasons why they may ask you for additional evidence. If you didn't submit any sort of proof or credible evidence of your extreme cruelty, form of affidavit, declaration, or all of that stuff, you could receive an RFE for that. If you didn't submit proof of good moral character, you could receive an RFE for that. If you didn't submit proof of good moral character within the last 3 years with just the 1 year, you could get an RFE for that. If you didn't submit proof of cohabitation, you could get an RFE for that. If you didn't submit proof of bona fides, you could get an RFE for that. So as you can see, it's just it's just too broad. It's not one of those questions that can really be answered without knowing what you submitted and being able to look at it and say, okay, they will probably ask for an RFE for this. And for those of you who don't know, RFE just means request for evidence, additional evidence. Toonsby said, please reply me, ma'am. Okay, Toonsby, I cannot find your comment though. So if you can just paste it again so I can reply. Let's see what else we have here. Peter says, is it free to renew your work permit? The answer really depends, one, on the kind of work permit you're applying for, and two, if you paid a filing fee when you initially submitted your the application that attached to your work permit. So if you filed a marriage-based case, for example, and you filed an I-485, if you didn't request a fee waiver and you paid the $1,225 for the I-485, then you can file for a renewal as long as it's filed timely without paying a new filing fee. Okay. Can I marry 3 American wives to speed up my citizenship? Are you trolling me or something? I'm feeling good tonight. Is that a joke? Yeah, I feel like you're joking, so I'm not even going to answer that. So Tunes Baby says, okay, I see your question now. I was questioned at the Atlanta airport yesterday due to my passport that has expired. Yeah, why has your passport expired? You shouldn't be traveling with your passport expired. And where were you going, inside or outside the country? And you guys do know that if your passport is about to expire within 6 months of your travel outside the country, that could be a potential problem. So you want to make sure that your passport will not be expiring within 6 months, so that you renew it before you travel outside the country if you have advanced parole. Okay, let's see what other questions I have before I jump off. Okay, so this person said that she didn't file taxes together with her spouse because she did not have a social security or ITIN number. So I'm working on getting an ITIN number so I can do taxes without effect. Okay, so that's a logical explanation, and that can be explained to USCIS. After Adupa says, after I get the receipt for removal of condition, what receipt should I be expecting? You shouldn't be expecting any other receipt. That is your receipt. And your receipt should be attached with a 24-month extension of your green card. So basically, essentially, when you file for removal of conditions on your green card, because they know green card, even removal of conditions are taking 24 months, what they're giving right now is 24 months extensions. Even for those people who filed last year who got 18 months, we're seeing them reissue new 24-month extensions. And some of you might say, well, my 24-month will still technically have expired. At that point, if it expired, you can do an info pass and get your passport stamped with an additional 12 months. But really, at that point, you're essentially waiting for a decision or for them to schedule for an interview. Those are the only two things that are going to happen outside of them doing a biometrics or biometrics bypass. Can a green card holder do you mean sponsor? Yeah, probably. Can a green card holder sponsor his wife who's undocumented? No. Well, yes and no. They can, as long as the spouse goes back to their home country after a hardship waiver has been approved, but not while they are here. Now, if that spouse, the green card holder, is abusive to the undocumented spouse, the undocumented spouse could qualify to apply on his or her own while they're still in the United States. Nikki says, can I get financial aid with my VA pending? Technically, yes, but you would have to reach out to your academic institution to find out what the requirements are. But you will get that not with the VA pending, with the prima facie determination letter. So you will get the aid for 1 year, and then as your prima facie is renewed in 6-month increments, you should be able to get aid. But you should reach out to your institution or the school you go to, and they'll be able to help you. Hi, Ayan Faye. Okay, so Tunes Baby says, I'm going to renew it in Atlanta. Excellent. Okay, so Papa says, I got denied, which made me lose everything. Like, I couldn't get my driver's license. Now that I have my case reopened, can I use any letters that was sent to get a license? So Papa, what you can, I'm going to assume that you're doing like a marriage-based green card. So I'm making an assumption that's what you're doing. If that is what you're doing, even though they opened your I-485, typically, every state is kind of different on their DMV and what the requirement is. Some states will allow you to use the 485 only. Most states require you to have a work permit. So unless your work permit has also been reactivated, you probably won't be able to get a driver's license. If your work permit has expired, you want to get on it and file for a renewal because it takes a long time. So that way, once you get the renewal, you can get your driver's license. All right. Nikki says, you and your team do an excellent job. God bless you abundantly. Thank you so much. And same to you as well. I appreciate it. Emeka says, my spouse is tax exempt and I don't plan on paying taxes anytime soon. We don't file taxes. What do you mean you don't plan on paying taxes? Please do not ever type that on the internet or social media, because that is not what USCIS wants to see. They will not look at you as a good citizen or a good potential if you say you don't plan on paying taxes anytime soon. So don't put that on there. That being said, that is not a logical explanation. If my husband is applying for naturalization and I am undocumented, can this affect his application process? No. As a matter of fact, we just had a husband and wife couple where we filed for naturalization for the husband. While the wife was undocumented, he was a green card holder. He got his naturalization approved, and we're gonna get his wife her green card, so it doesn't affect you. Portrait says, you're so freaking beautiful. We love to see you on videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Can I travel with my advanced parole to Jamaica while my VAWA case is still pending? So the answer is going to depend on if you were ever in what we call a removal proceeding, or you received a notice to appear in front of an immigration judge. If you didn't receive anything of that nature, you could travel if you want to. That's what it's there for. What I always say to my own clients is, if you do travel, 2 things. Make sure you take a copy of everything. Take a copy of your passport, take a copy of your pending applications, take a copy of your green paper of approval, take a copy of your of the actual travel permit. So you take the original and you take a copy. Make sure you do not put the original where you put the permit. You know, like when you travel, sometimes luggages get lost, things get stolen. So you want to put them in two separate places so that, God forbid, something happens to one, you have another copy. And then the second thing I always say is, when you travel outside of the country, do not stay for too long. Don't try to travel and go out for like more than 30 days. You know, stay, if you're staying there a week, 2 weeks, and then come right on back, you know, because you don't want to be there and something like COVID happens again, borders close, you're scheduled for something, you're scheduled for an interview, you're scheduled and you can't show up, or they need something from you and you can't show up. I keep freezing on Facebook. Can you guys see me? So that's what I would tell my own clients. Can I still use the receipt of 24 months extension letter of the green card to travel outside the U.S. while my case is still pending? Absolutely. Yeah, because you're still a green card holder. The green paper is just saying that they've extended it. So make sure you take the green paper along with your expired actual green card. Okay. Chandria says, great job. Love your passion for what you do. Thank you. I appreciate it. Pinky says, how long after receiving a green card can a parent file for their children? Immediately, that same day. Congratulations if that's you. Ameka says she doesn't plan on paying taxes. Well, if she doesn't plan on paying taxes, well, why is she tax exempt? Is she over 70? Like, is she over the age of filing for taxes or what? Like, you know, I mean, for you, like, I will definitely recommend a consultation. I don't want to talk about your business on here, but what you're saying without more context to it, I'm not going to answer that. You know, I need to understand what is happening and why she's not planning on paying taxes. Okay, so Pinky, let's retract back your answer. The question is, how long after receiving a green card can a parent file for their children unmarried over 21? That is, they can file immediately, but they can only file the I-130, because if they're over the age of 21, there is a 5-year wait before those visas are available. And then depending on where they are, they would need to either do an adjustment of status or consular processing. But as far as the I-130, they can file the I-130 application right away. How long does it take for USCIS to review my I-485 case? The answer is that it depends. It really depends on your field office. It depends on your service center that's processing your case. But most average cases will take 12 to 15 months to be scheduled for an interview from when you submit for your first interview. And the decision could take longer for some people. It just depends on what's in your record. If you get an RFE, that also changes the timeline. So it all really depends. Somebody says on Instagram, Portrait says, if I file taxes and I'm married to an American, do I have to include him on it if we're not together for marriage problems? If you're no longer together and you're separated, no, you don't have to include the person on there. Okay. If you're a U.S. citizen spouse, let me drink my water. Teddy on Facebook says, if your U.S. citizen spouse refuses to sign your joint filing of your Form I-751 to remove conditions on the residence and the 90-day period is over, what will a person do in that situation? In that situation, you need to call a lawyer. You need to call a lawyer so that we can evaluate whether you would qualify based on extreme cruelty. Because if you qualify based on extreme cruelty, the timeline doesn't matter. Obviously, at that point, you're not divorced, so you will not qualify on the basis of divorce. But if you applied, if you get divorced, you know, in this whole process, then, you know, one of the things will be explained to USCIS is asking for basically forgiveness for submitting your stuff late. But these are the reasons, the circumstances beyond your control for submitting it late. But if you are in that situation, you definitely want to consult with a lawyer so that you can get what your options are. Okay. Okay, people. I am heading out, or I am heading back to work. You know, for today, I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. I will be back on Monday, pending my schedule. I don't know, for some reason this holiday season, I have a lot of interviews in the morning with USCIS office. So it just really depends on if I'm in immigration's office or not. But generally, I try to come on most days between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern time. Obviously, today is a Friday. I just had to do some work this morning before I got on real quick. But you can select a notification, subscribe to our channel. Guys, we're 100 away from getting to 9,000 followers on Facebook. I would love for you guys to share this video just as much as you get information from me. It will be great for you to share with your friends who might need this, cousins, aunties, uncles. You never know who needs help. And thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Bye.